Welcome to the July 24th, 2023 meeting of the Sandusky City Commission. We'll have an invocation offered by Commissioner Harris, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
We gather here today in the spirit of collaboration and progress as we convene this commission meeting. With gratitude for the opportunity to come together, we invoke a sense of purpose and unity to guide our deliberations. May we approach this meeting with open minds and open hearts, embracing diversity of thought and respecting the differences or the different perspectives each of us brings to the table. Let us cultivate an atmosphere of mutual respect and constructive dialogue, recognizing that our collective efforts are aimed at serving the greater good. In our spirit of the common goals we share, may we be guided by fairness, transparency, and the pursuit of truth. Let us be mindful of the impact our decisions have on the individuals and communities we represent, and may empathy and compassion inform our every action. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, call the roll.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Here.
Mr. Poole?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Mr. Brady?
Here.
Mr. Pajali?
Here.
Mr. Waddington?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Commissioners, you have before you the minutes of our meeting of July the 10th, 2023, and the minutes of our meeting of July the 17th, 2023. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I
Waddington.
move that we accept the minutes of the July 10th and 17th meetings and dispense with the formal reading.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved and those minutes are approved. Any residents with comments regarding tonight's agenda, please step to the podium and share with us your name and address and your agenda concerns.
Sharon Johnson, 1139 Fifth Street. There are a couple concerns I have. Tonight, we're signing a contract for Justin Harris. Welcome back, Justin.
Thanks, Sharon.
You can, we,
Neither of you sound sincere.
what is this, the third time? I have a concern, though. I have a concern, so maybe you'll address it in the agenda. My concern is that we do a lot of business with Cedar Point, and we're going to do an upcoming contract probably with Greater Sandusky Partnership. And Justin has a client with Cedar Point, and as far as Greater Sandusky Partnership, he is on the board. So I don't know how he's going to handle that when he's writing out contracts. So that's one. The second one are the grants again. We have two development grants, one for $140,000 and one for $15,000 that have Brady signs attached to them again. Now, how these grants work is you total up all the expenses. The applicant hands in all the expenses, including the sign expenses. And then you get the 10% figured out for the grant. So the signs were part of the total expenses. Now, when I was in the ED committee, Mr. Hiles told me that there is no conflict because Mr. Brady does not own the company, hasn't owned it for 3.5 years. But when I looked up his financial disclosure, which was just filed April of 2023 for the calendar year of 2022, that's not the case. He puts down that he is the owner and he is the president, and he has common stock in the company. So, Mr. Brady, I truly hope tonight you can put this to bed and tell us what's going on with your company there, so we don't have to worry about Brady signs anymore. So I don't want to stand up here again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Any additional comments regarding agenda items?
Good evening. Mark Harper, 2015 Foxborough Circle.
I wanted to speak on item 8 of the agenda tonight regarding the tax levy for the rec center. Unfortunately, in the past 10 years, I have never voted no for a levy in any municipality that I have lived in. I am typically always for levies, especially for rec centers, schools, even bonds to do all kinds of different infrastructure projects and things of that sort. And in part for voting no, or will be voting no for this levy, is the fact that we are deciding to put the rec center on the American Cran site. First and foremost, out of one of 2 municipalities in this entire state that have experienced some type of train derailment from Norfolk Southern, I don't know how we in good conscience can decide that we're going to choose a site to put a rec center that our residents are going to visit that abuts up to the same railroad that is owned by that company. I don't know why we would want to put our residents in that position, especially considering that Norfolk Southern has basically wiped off an entire city off of our map in East Palestine. So I hope that more residents will speak up about this, will come out about this, and we'll make sure to continue to encourage that folks vote no for this levy so long as American Cran site is the site for this recreation center. Given the options that we had with that presentation a couple of meetings ago, unfortunately I was out of the country so I could not come, I think the JC Park would be a significantly better site for this rec center. It's ample land, ample opportunity for expansion, ample opportunity to redesign that entire park to fit this community. It's next to transit. It's more central than American Cran. So I just wanted to come tonight for my first opportunity to do so, to speak in opposition of that. And hopefully going forward, this body will decide to choose a different site instead of building on a site that abuts this railroad. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments from the public regarding agenda items? If not, I am going to break out of the agenda specifically as we have a representative from the Ironman here tonight. Casey Gilvin and Jason, you can do the introductions and want to talk a little bit about the event.
Sure. Yep. Through you, Commissioner President, to the rest of the commission, we had a few people in town over the weekend, and Casey Gilvin, the race director for Ironman, was about to hand me something that says City of Sandusky on it, and I thought, well, the best timing would be to have something presented here at this meeting. So I want to thank everyone for, here that brought the Ironman and helping Ironman here, and Casey's here to present.
Good evening. Thank you on behalf of Ironman World Triathlon Corporation on yesterday's event. We literally started planning this literally the day after last year's event with all of our local agencies, with our regional partners, Sandusky County, Coast Guard, in preparation for this event. Yesterday was an amazing day for our athletes, for people that came in. We know that we raced about 1,600 athletes actually were actually running, swimming, biking in the region, and each one of those athletes brought 2 to 3 people with them. We identified basically, I think it was 10 or 11 different countries athletes came from. We had a representative from Bolivia, representative from Ukraine, and it was great to see people have a great time in this city. People were having fun, were experiencing their best moments, and it's this race. Triathlons are. It's an empowering event, and it's great for the community. It's great for athletes to really see the beauty of this region. And on behalf of Ironman, I just have a couple things. The first one is a finish line tape that I believe you were there yesterday, crossing for that first finisher in about 4 hours, which is impressive. So on behalf of this Ironman, I want to present a finisher line tape to the city. And then also too, I'd like to present just a plaque that just says, hey, that just says, Ironman 70.3 Sandusky, Ohio, City of Sandusky, thank you for your support, July 23rd, 2023. And then lastly, I'd like to present each one of the commissioners one of the finisher medals.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, dude. All right.
Never earned it, I can say that.
Let me just say, Commissioner Pohl, that some people are more prone to bribery, but I'll take mine too.
Absolutely. Yes.
If I could teach my golf. Thank you, thank you. Man, I'm gonna walk around with a pep in my step now. Man, my chest out a little bit. Excuse me, though, I do have one request. Can we get President Brady to run through that?
Next week.
I can tell you, my biggest fear was that our city manager and myself, who held the tape, that we would fail to drop it appropriately and we would trip the finisher. That didn't happen. We rehearsed that several times and it worked out great. Mr. Galvin, I have to tell you that you could not have held this event at a more appropriate time. You got to see our city, I think, at its very best. We delivered to you great weather. We delivered to you a gang of volunteers, many of them staff. I saw many of our staff involved in this, as well as so many, literally, city residents participated, my son-in-law being one of them. And to a person, we got a great marketing opportunity out of this. I think that history shows that people that visit our city come back for the next 5 years. They bring their families, they bring their kids, they bring their relatives, they bring their friends. We see this as an opportunity to really leverage those dollars. And prior to this event, I was supplied by some good friends in the hotel business the financial impact study that this event made last year, not this year, but last year. Overall impact of this area, $5.3 million. Direct impact, $3.6 million. Imagine for a moment, $2 million just in lodging. Over $600,000 in food. That is such a benefit to our community. And I know that we pay you a fee to be here. We leverage that fee 4.5 times a direct benefit to the city just in taxes. So you are quickly becoming the goose that laid the golden egg for us, I can tell you that. Thanks for being here. I know we have one contract left on this 3-year contract. I'm hopeful that this commission will at some point in the future pass a motion to renegotiate and extend a longer contract or a continuing contract with you. You've done us proud, you really have. Additional comments, commissioners? Yes, I've said it all.
Yeah.
Mr. Waddington.
Just thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Poole.
I find it incredible that we took credit for the weather also. And yes, thank you so much. I enjoyed volunteering. I worked with Justin Harris at the site they were at. This was a great experience. Thank you. And I'm formulating a lie about this now.
Fish are going to get bigger, aren't they?
Yeah. Story's going to get big.
Man, you need to be careful about the company you keep.
Thank you.
Thanks. We have our volunteer appreciation, so we're probably going to head out, but tonight's the
As I do with most guests, we give you a dispensation and not have to sit through the next 2 hours. Get out of here now.
Thank you.
Jason, you should stay, but go ahead and get going. Commissioners, you have before you several communications from staff recommending various pieces of legislation. Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion? Without objection, the motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Commissioners, we have 5 items on the consent agenda this evening. Do any of you wish to move any of those items to the regular agenda? If not, Ms. Byers, will you give us the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. Item A, approval of fiscal year 2023 CDBG subrecipient agreement with New Jerusalem Church Shelter. Item B, approval of fiscal year 2023 CDBG subrecipient agreement with OGO Food Pantry. Item C, approval of fiscal year 2023 CDBG subrecipient agreement with Meals on Wheels. Item D, approval of 2023 budget amendment. Number 4. Item E, approval of change order number 1 and final for the 2023 local street resurfacing project.
Commissioners, having heard these ordinances, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Meinzer.
I move for the consent agenda items A through E to be approved in full accordance with Section 14 City Charter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion. I will be, as I'm going to be on on 3 pieces of legislation this evening, I am going to be abstaining from item B on this agenda as Brady Sign Company has recently sold a sign to this organization. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on those ordinances.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer,
Yes.
Mr. Poole,
Yes.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Brady,
Yes.
Mr. Pajali,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
And now on the ordinances.
Mr. Meinzer,
Yes.
Mr. Poole,
Yes.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Brady,
Abstain.
Mr. Pajali,
Yes.
Mr. Waddington,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Those ordinances are passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 1, please.
It is requested an ordinance be passed approving an easement agreement granting permanent and temporary easements to the city by Toff Dairy Incorporated for the Sandusky Bay Pathway and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner White.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion.
Chairman,
Commissioner Murray.
do we know, is there Representative Toffs here? If not, just simply would like to go on the record as expressing our thanks for the magnanimity of Toffs and being such a great municipal partner and offering the easements free of charge. That's a lot, and we should be very thankful for them. They're real team players, so thank you.
Mr. Klein, my understanding is you are very quickly weaving together a continuous path in that area for the pathway. Can you share with us how we're doing and what's left?
Yes, Commission President and to the commissioners. So from Edgewater to Raytech, which means that we would be going from Edgewater down Monroe up through Lions Park in front of the health department and then kind of around in front of the marina and then back down to Monroe. After this acquisition here, we really have one property left, and that's US Subaki. The hope is that we can finalize that in August or September, and then we can proceed with final design over on the west end. The hardest part that we have is going to be getting across the railroad on Monroe. I don't know how long that's going to take, but we're going to get as close as we can, and then we'll jump back over, go from King Street up until the west terminus. My goal is to get that on the agenda, final design, sometime next year, if we can get all of these final couple easements in place. I'm pretty excited about this section. I know talking to Denny and Chuck Meisler over at Toffs, they're very excited about it as well. They've been great to work with. Actually, all of the people on that end and throughout the whole process have been great to work with. US Subaki's been really good, and so is it's been very rewarding being able to talk to the residents, the business owners, and everybody else that are in such favor of seeing the pathway and seeing it. And I get phone calls weekly about how quickly we can get it finished. So hopefully we can get some more donations like Toffs is doing, and we can move forward with all the amenities as well.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Additional comments or questions? Commissioner Poole.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, just with regard to cross the railroad tracks, this is a really good project to be doing, but the railroad tracks should not be a big obstruction. People ride their bicycles across the railroad tracks on the street all the time. Spending a great deal of money to cover 60 feet of railroad tracks on a, I'm not sure what kind of plane you're talking about doing this, but it's just it should not be an issue. You can terminate at the edge of the tracks, go to the street, and come back on the other side. Likewise, people are getting across tracks just fine everywhere without having putting in a $500,000 improvement to it.
Right.
Additional comments, Commissioners?
I think Mr. Klein has it, Mr. President.
Yeah, through the Commission President, to respond to that comment, on Edgewater, we have the width between the vertical posts for the railroad. Like, we can get through there by having the path extend between those for the safety of the cyclist. The concern is if you're outside of that post, that arm for the railroad crossing, and somebody, if the cross arm goes down and the bike path doesn't pass through there, then you'd be going around the outside of it and it wouldn't stop them. We can do that on Edgewater. The biggest concern on Monroe is that there's a switch right in line with the railroad, or with the bike path. So the railroad is asking us to come along the north side on both sides, then cross the road on both sides of the tracks, go along the south, and that means that the cyclists would be crossing twice along Monroe, and that's just not safe either. So they're also saying, well, then reroute the road, move the road south, and keep the bike paths on the north side of the road. So we're working through all those details to make it safe. They won't relocate that switch. They are very difficult on that location in particular. Edgewater, they've been good to work with. We have designed, but that other location on Monroe, because of that switch, is what's making it difficult. I don't know how long that's going to take. We've gone through design with them, and we're going to keep working through. And their first request was for us to build a bridge or a tunnel under the railroad. So we're going to obviously not do those things, but as we work through these details, I'm going to get as close as I can. People will find their way across. We'll make it as safe as we can. But, in the meantime, we're going to build it out as according to the Sandusky Bay Pathway update that was approved in 2018.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Poole.
without being able to look at the drawings of what you're talking about, you said quite a bit there. I'm not actually certain exactly what you mean total. I do recognize that people are riding bicycles across that track now with safety. No one's been killed. And so all of what you said, sounds like it's being caused because you insist upon having a dedicated bike lane across the tracks. I'm suggesting that you can terminate your bike trail before you get to the tracks, and people can go back in the street for 60 feet and cross over, just like they have been for the last 75 to 100 years that the railroad's been there. You can do that at both. If you don't want to do that, that's fine, but all that you just described to me sounds like, yeah, it makes sense if you insist on going that direction. But people are riding across those tracks just fine now. We shouldn't have to spend anything to cross the railroad tracks. Number one, the number of bicycle traffic, the traffic on the road's not too heavy, because like I said, clearly bicycles are riding there now. And also the bicycle traffic, just as you've seen downtown, is not overwhelming. We're not running a marathon of we're not running bicycle races down there with a lot of people. The traffic level on there is almost insignificant, and there's no reason that one or two bikes can't navigate those tracks, any tracks in town, just the way they are now, without the taxpayers going to a great deal of expense. As you said, one of the suggestions is, why don't we put a bridge over it? How many bicycles do you actually think are going to be using this? So just my thoughts about what can be done to expedite this and spend our money wisely. Thank you.
Ms. Myers, you call the roll on the motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Paris?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 2, please.
It is requested a resolution be passed declaring the necessity for the city to proceed with the proposed Butler Street reconstruction project, approving the specifications and engineer's estimate of costs thereof, and directing the city manager to advertise for and receive bids in relation thereto, and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this resolution, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Poole.
move for the adoption of this resolution under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion.
We're going to miss this road.
Commissioner Murphy?
I said, we're going to miss this road.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Ms. Myers, you call roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Harris?
Yes.
And now on the resolution.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
That resolution is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 3, please.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to expend funds for parts and the repair of a water pump for the Vector Jet sewer cleaner truck from JDC of Twinsburg, Ohio, in the amount of $23,042.63, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Harris?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Mr. Klein, why is it that everything you do in engineering costs us so much money?
I don't know how to respond to that, Mr.
We're buying a
President.
pump.
Yeah.
Spending
No, this is,
$23,000 for a pump.
We have 2 vac trucks out at the sewer division, and these are the big trucks with the big hoses that go down into the manholes and actually suck out the sewers. This truck has been down for a couple months. I don't know why this pump in particular is that much, but my understanding is there's it's a very specialty item that's specific just to these trucks, and these are the only folks that can do the repair.
Typically, when I ask Mr. Klein this question in my semi-weekly meetings with him, he tells me we are lucky we can get it at all. And I think in this economy and in this construction environment, that is true. As we all remember, a couple meetings ago, we spent almost $1 million on a fire truck that we can look forward to getting in 3 years. It's just life. Thank you, Mr. Klein, for what you do. I know you always get us good numbers, and we're the benefit of state buying conglomerates, so we're always assured that we're not overpaying for those, so thank you for your effort on that. Additional comments or questions, Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Poole?
what's the age of the trucks and replacement cost if we had to buy one?
Through the commission president, I don't know the exact age of this vehicle, but when we've looked to purchase them, they're in the range of $600 and some thousand.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, do you give us item number 4, please?
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and approving a grant in the amount of $15,000 through the Economic Development Fund Program to Mid-Ohio Funeral Services LLC, known as Brown Robinson Funeral Home, in relation to the property located at 1814 Milan Road, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I
Waddington?
move for adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. I will once again be abstaining from the vote and any discussion that may have ensued on this piece of legislation as well as the next piece of legislation. And I think this might be the appropriate time for me to deal with a public comment from Ms. Johnson regarding what she perceives as a conflict of interest. I would like to share with you that Mr. Heil, Ms. Johnson, never made the comment that I had no ownership in Brady Sign Company.
Yes, he did.
That comment was made by the chairman of the Economic Development Committee, not by Mr. Heil. Mr. Heil indicated to you that there was no conflict. I'm not going to debate you, I'm just simply making a statement. Mr. Heil indicated to you that there is no conflict in the Economic Development Committee awarding grants to people that do business with Brady Sign Company. I have a minority ownership in Brady Sign Company. I've never denied that. I will never deny that. That does not preclude people from applying for economic development grants. That does not eliminate that. That will never eliminate them. The purpose of my abstaining from these votes are to look absolutely appropriate. Once my company knows we're doing business with someone, that does not preclude them from seeking money from the city of Sandusky. That is not a conflict. That has never been a conflict. I have now lived through 4 law directors. None of those 4 have found this to be a conflict. I will continue to encourage people in this city to secure economic development grants from us, but I will not hamstring our company from doing business with those people that do receive those grants.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Murray.
I think I see Mr. Robinson here from his marketing, and I just want to say thank you for the investment and welcome to Sandusky.
Additional comments or questions, please?
Mr. Chairman, the issue at hand with regard to the Economic Development Fund and the signs has little to do with this particular issue. It's a bigger issue than that, so just so you know ahead, I'm going to bring it up again at under new business. What we do, you've done nothing inappropriate. The appearance of impropriety is sometimes as important, and we should make a decision about, because here's the deal. We'll bring it up under new business, but we should make a decision about whether or not we're going to give out money for signs at all.
As far as you call the roll on that motion.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Abstain.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Abstain.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, as far as you present item number 4, please.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and approving a grant in the amount of $140,000 through the Economic Development Fund Program to S&S Realty Limited in relation to the property located at 1935 Cleveland Road, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioners.
move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion on the second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Waddington.
reading through my packet over the weekend, I know the George and Jimmy, not real well, but I know their businesses and that, and they've been in business there since 1982 through my reading. And with this increase they're going to do, it's going to jump their payroll and estimated from 2.4 million to 3.5, and I think that's great. It's nice to see someone outside of downtown getting some of this money. So I applaud the funeral director and the Sortinos. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Additional comments, Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Jolly.
I would just like to echo Mr. Waddington's sentiments. And, you know, I think back on that corridor, and I think back years ago when that was a booming corridor. The traffic counts were probably between 20 and 24,000 cars a day. And they had a Wendy's and a Pizza Hut and a McDonald's and all these different businesses, and they've all left. And there's a lot of reasons why, but the Sortino boys, as my dad used to say, those Sortino boys are good businessmen. And I think I agree with that. They've made it work, and they've continued to make that corridor grow with some of the things they've done and continue to do. So I, for one, appreciate the fact that you guys are invested in Sandusky and you're keeping things going.
Additional comments or questions, Commissioners? Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Abstain.
Mr. Brady?
Abstain.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Abstain.
Mr. Brady?
Abstain.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Mr. Myers, you present item number 5, please.
It is requested an ordinance, am I fine?
6.
6.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing approving a grant in the amount of $15,000 through the Economic Development Fund Program to Sandusky Book Bar LLC in relation to the property located at 2101 West Perkins Avenue and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Murray.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance pursuant to Section 14 of the city's charter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
it's nice reading this. I know it's the old, front of the old YMCA, but it's out in the south side neighborhood that we're trying to currently restore. So it's nice to see a business move in out in that end.
Additional comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with Mr. Waddington again. It's nice that one of the complaints I've heard is we rely too much on putting money downtown, and it's nice to see we're putting some money out on the east side and the west side, west-south side, and the middle of town. So I like to help businesses out throughout the city.
Once again, I'll be abstaining on this piece of legislation as the honors are negotiating a signed contract with Brady Sign Company. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Abstain.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
I will be abstaining as well, just due to my drywall contracting company.
Now on the ordinance.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Abstain.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Abstain.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 7.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with HDR Incorporated of Cleveland, Ohio, to conduct an examination of services for the Sandusky Transit System and Amtrak Station, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Meinzer.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Murray.
I support undertaking this study. I think that transit is an incredibly important service that we provide, not only to Sandusky residents, but to all of Erie County. It is a lifeline of economic vitality. It's a lifeline for people to be able to afford to live in Sandusky, in the areas. As we all know, the state and federal commitments to mass transit have been shrinking. And the state in particular is getting smaller because, as I understand it, of additional people who are throwing their hat in, asking for a piece of that pie. Pie's not getting much larger. I think Ohio is like 48th worst state in terms of funding mass transit. In all events, we've seen some projections. Transit's headed deep into the red in future years if we don't change things. And I think we can change things. We have a very capable administrator today. He's done a yeoman's job for us. I think it is helpful always to get other perspectives, to bring in some folks who've got decades of experience in transit and can help us figure out a solution for the long term, because the rate we're headed, we're going to close transit within a year or 2 or 3. I don't know when we get to the point where we say, uncle, that's just enough, but it's coming. And I think it behooves us to spend a little bit of money here and find out what our options are, see if we can build larger partnerships and a more sustaining funding model, more sustainable funding model for transit.
Additional comments or questions, Commissioner? Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Harris?
Yes.
And now on the resolution,
Ordinance.
ordinance.
Mr. Meinzer.
Yes.
Mr. Poole.
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes,
Mr. Pajali.
Yes.
Mr. Waddington.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
that ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 8, please.
It is requested a resolution be passed to proceed with an additional tax on property in the excess of the 10 mil limitation for parks and recreation for the city of Sandusky, and to submit to the question of the tax levy to the electors of the city at the November 7th, 2023 election, and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this resolution, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this resolution under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Johnson.
I would just like to mention that relative to the earlier comments on this particular item, I believe this is the way the system should work, right? We're giving the people a chance to vote and a chance to vote on this levy. If it doesn't go forward, it doesn't go forward. But nobody can say that we made the decision to move forward without giving the people a chance to vote. And I think that's the way the system should work. Now, the location, that may be another issue, but one thing at a time.
Shadamas, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Murray.
there will be 1,000 reasons to vote no on this project. Some people won't like the amenities. Some people won't like the costs. Some people won't like the appearance. Some people won't like the selections we've made in terms of interior design. Some people won't like the location we've chosen. That's in the nature of any large municipal project like this. If we're going to move forward, it requires people to embrace it and say yes. If people don't want it, that's fine. That's their choice. But I would hope that we're able to look at this as a community benefit and something that isn't a specific benefit to either any particular one of us, and embrace the concept that we have been requested to build a rec center for at least 20 years. And so I think this is our opportunity to do so. I hope that the residents come out and support this. I certainly will. We've talked before about why it's necessary to have a dedicated source of funding. I'm not going to go back to address that again, but I do think that if we take a look at the long view, we'll see this is the right thing for our residents.
I agree. I think that, I hope that the message that is sent here tonight is one of fiscal responsibility. We all understand that we have the dollars, through the dollars that we collect from Cedar Fair and the amusement park tax, we have the money to build it and to bond it and to pay for it. What we cannot assure residents is that we have the ability to manage it, financial ability to manage it. This guarantees that, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then I don't think it's fiscally responsible for us to build it. But that's a decision that will be rendered on November the 8th. Additional comments, Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Poole.
could I ask what exactly are we going to build? There were, we made a point to talk about allowing the public to be involved and to vote on vote on this. But there's 3 proposals on the table that you're asking them to give you the go-ahead on that they don't have a say in. One is a very small facility at $13 million, a second that could be $15 million, and another at $18 million. And also, we weren't so magnanimous about allowing them to have any say in where you put it. And I'm just trying to figure out what it is, what are we asking them to approve? Just, what is that? And why not all of it? Why is it that they just get to vote on just what you've put in front of them, and we're not interested in allowing them to vote on the whole package? Is there a reason for that from staff or from commission?
Mr. Orzak, you look like you had an answer.
Yeah, Commission President, Commissioner Poole, and all the commissioners. I think that our staff's goal or objective is over the next 30 to 45 days to put all of those details together. We will certainly engage each of the commissioners and try to narrow down what programming is going to go inside there, the site selection, and those type of details that we need to have, and we'll have an educational flyer and a lot of engagement with the community on what exactly the rec center is going to be, what's going to be programmed in there, and all of those details. And our, the 7 of you are representative of the city, and we'll, have all of your feedback and try to come to at least as much a consensus as long, along with the survey information that we had received. So there's been some conversations about, whether or not we need a turf field. I think the consensus is we don't. So we'll narrow down with all of you and then have something more formal way before the election. Our goal is to have it in place by, beginning of September or mid-September at the latest. But that's where our plans are right now.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner
Just for the argument of the hazardous material leaks, having been a hazmat specialist and responded to tank cars derailed and some even going into the water, Sandusky Bay, we pre-planned all the intersections where railroad cars come through the city. I do remember Hayes Avenue. The immediate evacuation zone for certain chemicals on Hayes and the tracks encompassed Sandusky High School and Firelands Hospital. So that is a lot more than we could handle as a fire department. And however, I'll say at Mill Street, a tank car, depending on the weather and atmospheric pressure, Mills School is going to be in trouble at Mills, and J.C. Park will be in trouble at 250 and between Columbus and 250. So it just depends when and if a tank rail. I mean, a lot of Sandusky has materials running from east to west, west to east through town every day.
Good point. Additional comments or questions, Commissioner? Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that resolution, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
And now on the resolution.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
That resolution is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 9.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Justin Harris of Reminger Company, LPA of Sandusky, Ohio, for professional law director services for the city of Sandusky, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance pursuant to Section 14 of the city's charter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
when Mr. Heil announced he was leaving, my very first thought was, we got to go talk to Justin and see if he'll, and Mr. Orzak had beaten me to it already. When he called me with the news, he'd already reached out to Mr. Harris. And so I'm very appreciative of Justin saying yes. It was a lot of professional fun working with you before. You served the city very well, and thank you for saying yes. I think a third time now. So it's great to have you back for a little while.
Mr. Harris, I wonder if you would speak to the public comment regarding your potential conflict of interest, as we know that you and your firm have represented Cedar Fair for a number of years now.
Mr. Brady. Mr. Brady, if I can address that real quick, and then I'll turn it over to Justin. Justin notified me prior to agreeing to this that he might have a conflict with Cedar Fair, which is understandable in his practice. And so I assured Justin that any Cedar Fair, Cedar Point issues we would get outside counsel for. It was standard before, and I don't think that there's going to be any issues whatsoever. I don't anticipate us having a conversation that needs to involve the law department over the course of the next few months, although I hope to have a law director quicker than a city manager. But so, Mr. Harris, I assured him before he accepted it that the conflict that he potentially had with Cedar Fairs would be addressed with outside counsel. I'm not aware of the Greater Sandusky Partnership, but I think with his professionalism, he would abstain or not be involved in any conversation like that as well. So I'll turn it over to him. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Orzak. Through you, Commission President. I have some new faces, some familiar faces. Good to work with each and every one of you again. It's also good to see you, Sharon. I see you are still a watchdog for the city of Sandusky, so we appreciate that. But to answer your question, through you, Commission President, to the audience, we did vet that with, I'm used to calling him Chief Warzak, but City Manager Warzak, the issue with Cedar Fair. But I think just in terms of, and this may be helpful even for some of the comments you made with respect to Brady signs, a true conflict of interest is when two sides can't coexist based upon you're serving two masters at one time, so to speak, in the law. Just like doctors, lawyers have different specialties. The work I do for Cedar Fair is litigation. When they have contracts themselves, they retain firms like Squires, just like we retain Squires. And I'm not involved in the actual contractual aspects of Cedar Fair. Similarly, with the work that's being done with the city and Cedar Fair, my understanding, just in talking to Mr. Heil prior to his departure, I think the runway is down the road with respect to some of the major projects the city has in the works with Cedar Point. So depending on how long the interim hat is worn by me, I don't think we'll run into any issues. As far as the Greater Sandusky Partnership, I know a lot of folks don't truly understand what the Greater Sandusky Partnership is. I do belong to an organization. I think they have received funds from the city, just like Firelands has donated money to the Greater Sandusky Partnership, just like Cedar Fair has. But that is an organization designed to help move the city forward from an economic development standpoint. And I don't think the interest of Greater Sandusky Partnership and the city of Sandusky would be adversarial. They may or may not be coming to the city for funding in the future, but I'm not a voting member. The city commission are the folks that vote on it. The Greater Sandusky Partnership has their own attorney. They don't use me, so I don't think that would be a conflict. And you know, with respect, just if you don't mind, Commission President, with respect to Brady signs, that was an issue that came up during both my tenures. I agree with the Commission President that there's no conflict. It's been researched by myself, researched by my predecessors, researched by folks in Columbus. At the end of the day, a conflict in that situation would be if we were only giving funds to folks on the condition that they use Brady signs. That's not how we operate. A lot of these businesses select and choose who they want to use and then come to us for funding to support their project. It's not 100% funding, but if we were to use that analysis, I mean, the city banks at Savista. If any of the city commissioners banked at Savista, the risk of a business depositing large sums could indirectly help us all if we bank there. So we would all have to abstain. But that's just not how the conflict of interest laws are examined. So, I mean, I feel comfortable with Brady signs. Brandon Heil did, and Don Eisman did, Duff Milkey did. It's just not a conflict.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. You're hired. You know, I'm just kidding. That will take a vote.
All right. Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Poole.
I just want to say it's worthy of note, and I appreciate that the amount of forethought that went into this hiring by the city manager. I mean, the question came up. He had already researched it, had the answer to it, and we can move on. And that's refreshing. Thank you so much. It's not hanging out there wondering what the answer is and ducking and dodging. It's like you had it already under control, and that's very good. Thank you.
Commissioner President.
Mr. Maris.
Just one comment to Commissioner Poole. He does deserve that medal because he was handing out waters at a rapid pace. And they were coming by faster than we could refill them, so.
Mr. Waddington claimed 5,000 waters. I think he embellishes a bit, but maybe not.
No, we had,
5,000 waters.
That was the longest 4 hours of my
Yeah.
life, trust me.
Oh, God.
What a wonderful event. Ms. Myers, you call a roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Meinzer.
Yes.
Mr. Poole.
yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes.
Mr. Pajali.
Yes.
Mr. Waddington.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Meinzer.
Yes.
Mr. Poole.
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes.
Mr. Pajali.
Yes.
Mr. Waddington.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Welcome back.
Okay.
That concludes our regular agenda. We'll turn to our city manager for his report.
Good evening, Commissioners, audience, and staff. I have two donations from the Memorial Day Association for the Memorial Day Parade. It was $100 for both the fire department and the police department. If I could get a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion. Not objection, the motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved with our thanks.
Sandusky Rec would like to thank Ironman 70.3 Ohio team for their donation of 100 cases of bottled water, 2 cases of bananas, and a case of oranges following their event Sunday. The supplies were left over from the event over the weekend. They will be given to the participants in summer break camp this week, and the water will be used for participants in our programs and events for the rest of the year. Ask the commission to accept that donation.
So moved.
A motion and a second discussion. Not objection, the motion be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Our thanks to the Ironman people.
For the fire department, for the 6th year in a row, Sandusky Fire Department was awarded the Mission Lifeline Gold Award for the American Heart Association mission. Lifeline recognizes EMS healthcare providers for excellence in care to patients suffering from strokes and cardiac emergencies. Excellent job there, Chief. Sandusky Fire Department first responders were recognized by the Western Lake Erie chapter of the Red Cross for their heroic actions on December 23, 2022, responding to a 50-car pileup on the Ohio Turnpike. Congratulations and thank you to all Sandusky Fire personnel who contributed to Sandusky Fire Department receiving those awards. For Public Works, the current Perkins Ave closure from Hayes to Campbell will remain in place until mid-August. This closure allows for roadway restoration and installation of curbs, sidewalks. In addition, the contractor constructing the new water line will move into the next phase by closing Perkins Ave westbound from Columbus to Campbell in August. All detour routes will be set to use Strub Road, with local traffic using alternate routes throughout the city to reach their destination. And then last week, the city was awarded $2.5 million grant from the State of Ohio Builds Water Infrastructure Grant Program for the ongoing Perkins Ave Waterline Replacement Project. This grant will help cover the remainder of the cost of replacing the 80-plus-year-old water line under Perkins Ave and will reduce the amount of OWDA loans that the city was originally using to cover the cost, saving Sandusky ratepayers $2.5 million. The Perkins Ave project was one of 90 projects across the state that received a grant from this program. We thank the State Department of Development for selecting this critically important project as one of the grant recipients. And then the Planning Department, on July 18th and 19th respectively, the Public Arts and Culture Commission and Landmarks Commission approved a new mural to be applied to the north face of 303 East Washington Street. It is expected to be completed within the next 1 to 2 months and will be Sandusky's largest outdoor mural to date. The artwork theme is Sandusky warbler migration and local wildflowers. The artist, Derek Brennan, has completed murals across Ohio and in Sandusky, including the live green mural on West Washington Street at A&B Hobbies and Cycles, and multiple murals interior at the Marketplace and Hogerfee Building. That'll conclude my remarks for this evening. If you have any questions.
or comments for our city manager, Commissioner? If not, we'll move to items of old business. Any items of old business, Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I guess it'd be under old business. We're going to be looking for Mr. Pajali, and I talked to the commission clerk earlier today, looking for 2 residents to help join us, probably by the next meeting. So we got like 3 weeks for the volunteer awards that we do every year. This will be the 3rd year. And I got Chuck Lococo and Mr. Pajali, myself so far. We'd like to get 2 residents, get some different eyes or views out there. You know, like to keep that going. I hope that goes on forever because we got a lot of people that are deserving of it.
Perhaps we can ask for volunteers to communicate to the clerk
Right, correct.
their willingness to serve on a very select committee. Thank you, Mr. Waddington, for doing that. Additional items of old business. Any items of new business?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Waddington?
I talked to you today briefly, and then I've talked to our police chief tonight. I've been following this probably for 3 or 4 months. I guess I'm a junkie for this total eclipse that's going across Ohio cities. So it took me about 20 minutes in my research, and the city of Sandusky, for 3 minutes and 45 seconds, they list all the cities in Ohio will be entirely black. And with the conversation with you, you said that Shores and Islands is already involved. I think that's a neat thing to promote Sandusky. I know the chief and the fire chief, I think this would be really cool. It's on a Monday. I know up in the Amherst, Lorainers, they got their schools closed for that day, but it's a learning thing and something neat that nobody that's blowing air now is going to get to see again, okay? I mean, exchanging oxygen, you're not going to be around for the next one, so.
I'm constantly amazed at when I come up with an idea or think it's a new idea, and I give it to the city manager or share it with staff. About 100% of the time, I find out that they're already working on that idea, or they have that idea in place. It happens in almost every department in this city, and that is quite a compliment. And again, today, the result was exactly the same. I brought that up to Chief Orzak about noon and said, you know, we are on a committee, or we are working with Shores and Islands. We're working with a variety of different people through Chief Oliver, and by the time we get a little closer to April 8th, we'll have a plan. We'll have a plan to deal with it safety services wise and perhaps economically wise.
Mr. Chairman, can you imagine if talking to you, 100,000 people will probably be in Sandusky? That's kind of an estimate, like Amherst, Lorraine, they've closed down, basically they're closing the cities down, they're closing the schools down. What an opportunity to make money or business ideas, you know, if you're out in front of it way ahead. So,
Oliver, what do you have some comments?
Through you, Commission President, to Commissioner Waddington and the rest of the commissioners. Chief D'Amico and I think we probably first started meeting with Solar Eclipse, the panelists. There's Lake Erie Shores, there's people from lodging, tourism, there's Sandusky County, Huron County, Erie County, Transit's been there. So there's a little bit of everybody been meeting about this, and that was probably the start of this year. We've been meeting monthly since April. So when I say we, the city rec department too, there's some plans for Jackson Street Pier. I don't want to get out ahead of the plans officially becoming what they are, but we're talking about different things downtown for a few days. The schools are part of these meetings. I believe most schools in Erie County, Sandusky including, are adding a day to their spring break, so there won't be students in session because this is going to happen in the afternoon and buses and traffic. But we're blessed with an influx of traffic several times throughout the year, so I think Chief D'Amico and I are pretty used to dealing with traffic and what it's going to entail, and we're looking forward to it. I know there'll be a lot more coming out through Lake Erie Shores. There's a website they have in place now, too, that has a lot of different information on it, too, through their website. So
Thanks, Chief.
we'll keep you up to date.
Yep. Additional items that was under old business, wasn't it? Items of new business. Items of new business.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Murphy.
just a reminder, there's an important election coming up next month. Absentee voting is going on now, so if you haven't had a chance to vote, I urge all of you to do so. It's a very, very important issue. I'm not going to get into the politics or take sides on it publicly, but it's important that people vote.
Commissioner Poole, you look like you were leaning in.
Yeah, I am. It's always unpleasant when you have to talk about things that deal with people that you work with. The issue of selling signs in the community, I think we should review it. It may very well be that it is technically legal what we're doing. I would suggest that the appearances in propriety and the number of people that have questioned me about this, and I've just after 6 or 7 years of this, we reached a point where it's clear that everyone is not satisfied with the technical legal answer that what we're doing is legal. The sign program is arbitrary at its best in terms of whether we do it at all. In terms of a $1 million contract, a whatever, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 sign at 10% is almost insignificant amount of money. There are many other things we could have a grant program for that we give to businesses for changing, getting rid of lead pipe, for putting in storm windows. There's all kinds of things we could identify. May I suggest that, and I just ask that staff research this and come up with a reason why we have to leave this sign portion as part of what we consider in these grants. I see no reason why we can't give grants for businesses and find something that does not obviously, although technically legal, provide additional income for people who are sitting here at this table. So that's kind of what I'd like to, if I could get from staff, something to come up with. I don't think there's a lot of money, of our money involved. Like I said, it's 10% or whatever the sign cost. That can't cause the business to fail because we're not kicking in 10% of their sign cost, whatever it may be. And then they can buy the sign any way they want from whoever they choose. And we don't have to sit up here and explain why a member of this body is either not of any value to the citizens because they're abstaining or is making money off of what we do here as a group.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Murray.
I have a different view of this. We're not granting money for a sign, and you're not voting. You've taken the practice of always abstaining when there's a sign that's involved. We're just moving pieces around. This is artificial to say we're going to give the grant exclusive of what the sign package is. What are we going to do? This next say we're going to give a grant exclusive of what the drywall is, or exclusive of what the legal services are that are needed to complete the process? This is life in a small town. We're going to have conflicts, and we abstain. We do the right thing. Are there people that constantly complain about one thing or another? Yeah. It comes with the office. There are always people that are going to complain about all of us. We know it. We're used to it. And I don't think that the fact that they keep saying the same wrong thing makes it any more accurate. So I'm comfortable with the system as it is today.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Poole.
Mr. Murray, if you'll take some time and watch the ED committee meetings, and you may have seen them and just not seen what I have seen as often as I watch them, they already do what you just suggested. They exclude things. There are things that are not included. It's arbitrary that what we have including signs. So I understand your concerns, but it's not accurate. They pick and choose what is going to be covered and what is not. And I'm simply suggesting that for the good of the organization, that signs are not a major portion of this, and there's no reason for us, we don't have to include them. There's many things that aren't included. Yeah, you're right about drywall. We're not going to pick and choose, but there's no reason that we've added signs in there. Also, I've watched it. If we focus our money, how our money is being spent, signs are the least reliable in terms of long-term investment for the community, because as the businesses fail, the signs just go in the trash. And since, I haven't asked you to go through the number of businesses that have taken money from us and have not stayed here or have not survived, that would support what I'm saying. There's no reason for us to add an extra 10% and deal with all these issues. And quite frankly, I'm not real comfortable as a commissioner that I come up with a business that I get the city to send funding that I end up getting, no matter what. On its face, it looks bad because they can still buy a sign from you. So that's where I'm at, and I think you're mistaken in your portrayal of how the system works.
Additional items of new business. We've run out of items on the agenda. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Public comment, yeah, true, yeah. All right.
Audience participation.
Any items pertaining to city business.
Don't worry, Sharon, I was watching it.
Dennis, I agree with you, and I'm going to be very saddened to see that bus thing fold up. But I know, we all understand, we cannot take $1 million hit in the bus situation. So I'm hoping that what we're doing with the bus, I think it's a study, is that correct? Some kind of study? Okay, and I hope that will be public, and I hope you will ship a copy of that over to Erie County, and some of the business people take it to Greater Sandusky Partnership over there and distribute the study over to them. Because I think the county, they're nothing but tightwads over there. Shame on them.
Kick them in the butt.
I think this is going to be detrimental to our economic development. I mean, you've got all this development going on, and you need people to participate in whatever you developed, hiring people. There are a lot of poor people in this community that have to jump that bus to get to work. These surrounding cities do not understand that. So I'm hoping that this study will put an end to that, and you'll have some kind of proof now to show these people. This is what's going to happen. You can't wait until we close up the bus system and then whine about it, because it's not going to happen. Once we close it up, it's done. And Mr. Brady, I don't know how you can abstain and still do the sign. That has to be explained to me.
We sell them the sign, that's how we do it.
Thank you.
Additional public comment on any item pertaining to city business. Yes.
I hadn't intended to talk. I'm Helen Thompson. I'm a candidate. But as I listened to what's going on with this, I couldn't help but recall that as I'm collecting petitions and whatever, one of the things I'm hearing from people, signatures on my petition, one of the things that I'm hearing from people is a concern over conflicts. I think you're absolutely right that as a legal matter and as a lawyer, that it isn't technically a conflict of interest. But I think there's a bigger issue, and that is confidence in what we're doing as a city government. It's not impropriety, but the appearance of impropriety that turns citizens off to government. And so I just ask, please consider that as you look at the issue, because I think that it is one that people are very concerned about. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify one thing, I might have to ask Ms. Reeder, but 10% of $1 million is only, is 100,000.
You're talking about the sign, dude.
No, you said 10% of $1 million is $10,000. That's 1%.
All right, let me be clear.
I'm just saying that
The signs portion of any grant is minimal. So 10% of the sign cost is not going to cause a business to not exist if we don't include the sign.
All right, I hope you two are finished. We're going to need a call. We'll need to call a math teacher.
No, I just sit there thinking like, that's 100,000.
And my math could be off, but the point's made.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Bajali.
I didn't want to weigh in on this, but I'm thinking that is there a way that if the person who brought the project could show that he paid or he or she paid for the sign out of their own pocket, then there are no city funds going into it. And my other concern is we hire a lawyer, right? We have an in-house lawyer. He gives us an opinion, and I'm going to follow his opinion. I mean, he's the lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. And if he tells me there's no conflict, I'm going to live with that.
Thank you, Mr. Bajali.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Do I have a